Robin Pod is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Make them your first and only choice for a vast array of vehicle services. They are reputable East Hull-based car specialists and dedicated to providing quality services at reasonable prices. And don't forget, they are trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Find them at 146 Leeds Road and ask them about the exclusive discount they offer Hull KR Rovers Forever members. Welcome to the Robin Pod, the podcast that talks Hull KR so much you'd think we're on the payroll. This week we're dissecting the arm wrestle against Leeds Rhinos, the good, the bad and the downright baffling, Lewis's HIA drama, 𝗀𝗲𝗄𝗆's penalty for dissent and all the glorious missed opportunities that had us yelling in the stands at Craven Park. We'll do our best to bring you the latest squad news and of course we're looking ahead to this weekend's big one, KR versus Leigh Leopards. Will it be a mauling or will we have them pairing? Steve Till drops by for Robins Revisited, offering wisdom and memories, plus we answer all your questions in question time. So pour yourself a brew, crack open something stronger if needed, and let's get stuck in to this week's Robin Pod. Bazza, Steph, welcome to the Robin Pod. Now, Bazza, of course, you're joining us from your luxury lorry. We get sick of seeing it because, honestly, we'll mention it so many times. It looks better than most people's living rooms. Now, Steph, before we bring Bazza in, you're a Leigh Leopards fan. You've got a foot in the rivals' camp. But what we want to do is get your knowledge about the Leigh Leopards ahead of our game on Saturday and also discuss some of the wider talking points in Super League, which include the potential expansion of 14 teams. And, of course, the big news coming out this week is that the quota spot has increased now. So for 2026, we're going to go, I think, from 6 teams to 10. But Steph, welcome to the Robin Pod.
Right, thanks for having us on, Jono, and it's an honour to be on the show, mate. I'm looking forward to an hour of debate and previewing our game. And obviously, I've got a foot in the camp in the Leigh Leopards side, but I'm also a presenter on Super League Raw as well, which Baz is a member of. So hopefully, I can give a bit more of an insight than just a Leigh fan.
Yeah, and of course, what we always appreciate, apart from Bazza when we play that lot. Across the river is balanced opinion. So it's always good to get opinions from across the wide spectrum of Super League. The Robin Pod has been doing that for a good number of years now, getting rivals' views, getting independent people on the Robin Pod. So again, Steph's another welcome addition. But Basil, let's kick off with that game on Sunday against the Leeds Rhinos. What was your thoughts before we talk about the result? What was your thoughts heading into the game?
Heading into it, mate, I had a really, really bad feeling.
Really?
Yeah, something just didn't sit right with me that day. Something just felt off, and like watching the boys warm up and that, just I don't know. Leeds was up for it. I mean, it was Ryan All's welcoming. Something just didn't feel right. And yeah, I was proven right, to be honest with you.
Probably a bit like Bazza when you get you get your job sheet and it's Calais and you're thinking this isn't going to go well. I don't want to go there, you know. And I bet you felt like that when we played Leeds. But I don't understand why, because like the Robins have been shit hot, haven't they? Like we've been good. Like,
yeah.
What was it that made you feel like that? That Leeds was going to be our sort of not our nemesis, but it wasn't going to go the way that we wanted it to go.
Well, the Rhinos, if I remember rightly, they haven't beat us since 2022, and this year all we're doing is breaking records, breaking ducks, and I don't know. I just felt like maybe this is one where Leeds are going to get one over us because they haven't got one over us since 2022. Yeah, I wasn't expecting much of it. I mean, the game before, it was hard to read into because it was a tri-fest when they played Leigh. I think it ended up 48-30 or something like that. So part of me looked at, Leeds might have a bit of a leaky defence, but as Steph said about that game, it was like a one-off game. So I didn't know how to take it really. You couldn't read too much into it because Leeds leaking 30 points, that's not something Leeds have done this year. So I kind of expected a response from Leeds to tighten the defence up, and yeah, they certainly did that, and they held us to just one try. And I don't know, I had a bad feeling going into the game, like something didn't feel right, and yeah.
Well, let's not
Unfortunately,
forget,
we didn't get the
Steph, I mean,
result.
I was really looking forward to the game. And the reason why is because we have the potential to open up a 6-point lead at the top of Super League on the back of your victory in the bus stop derby. Probably the most patronising term you get to listen to. You know, I'll tell you what, before we talk about the result, just tell us about the rivalry between Leigh and Wigan, because it gets sort of downplayed a little bit, doesn't it? But before we talk about, obviously, a bit more about Rovers and Leeds, tell us about the rivalry, and then we'll go into a little bit about that game against Wigan.
Yeah, I mean, I have got a bit of a soft spot for KR in the fact that we share a lot of commonalities in terms of having a big neighbour who've been successful previously. Obviously, Wigan even more so for us, and obviously spending a lot of time in the Championship again, which KR have done and been really the blueprint of how to be a Championship club and get into Super League and stay there. Leigh have always been a bit of a yo-yo. We don't have whereas you've got the Hull derby, that's the Hull derby. We have the Wigan Saints derby, so we're kind of muscling in on that. And I think for the first time we're starting to get a bit of credibility in that, and it is becoming. You know, you look at the crowd at the beginning of the season; it's record opening round one attendance at the Brick Stadium. Sell out again for this one for Leigh, so it is becoming a big game, and that's because Leigh are now becoming a top 6 Super League side. They've proven that over the past 3 seasons. So I always say to Bazza, I think Leigh are 2-3 seasons behind where 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗃 were, and we're following a similar blueprint. Both obviously winning the Challenge Cup recently as well. So yeah, it is becoming a real derby that in Leigh, and one that you mentioned the bus stop. Leigh fans are endeared to that. We love it when they sing, you're just a bus stop in Wigan, because we get to sing back, you're getting beat by a bus stop.
There you go. Great response, isn't it? Baz, I'll tell you what, let's look at the team news prior to Leeds game. Obviously, the big news was that Jared Waerea-Hargreaves was back. Mickey McAlorum was back. 2 big names. We've not seen them since the Challenge Cup final. Of course, that famous victory, which is, a month previous. Was you looking forward to seeing them back in the starting lineup?
I was. And when I saw JWH on the bench, I thought it was pretty smart of Willie Peters to spell him for when Sam Lasoni comes on, and I thought that might work. But I don't like calling.
Well, I'm going to come on to that, Baz. I'm going to come on to that spelling and who came out on top of it, because I don't think it was Waerea-Hargreaves, and we'll talk about some of the moments. But to be fair, Bazza, I mean, even the opening 2 minutes, the Robins could have been in front, couldn't they? It was a bomb try, Bear just breaks, Morg then gets the ball and then chucks it out and it goes forward. And then from that moment, Bazza, you're starting to think, hey, this is the Rovers we know. This is the Rovers that have played, like they have so many times this season, quick, punchy, throwing the ball about. Yeah, it didn't come off, but we set the tone for how we normally play.
Yeah, we did. I don't know. I felt like a few of the attacking sets, we just lacked that little bit of composure. And there was just certain passes, 9 times out of 10 any other day, they'd stick. And I think it pretty much summed up our day. It just was not our day. Passes won't stick in, loose passes going forward. So it's one of them. Yeah, we did set the tone. We didn't back it up in the second half. And if anyone wants to say it was down to Mikey going off, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it at all. Yeah, we was a little bit disjointed, but we did start off really well. We could have had the game done by half time. Like I say, any other day that we would have had it done by half time. But for me, it was a bit of an off day. Passes won't stick in. There was loads of passes going forward, and it was just uncharacteristic. So I think that's why it was such a shock to a lot of KR fans, because throughout the year they've been silky smooth, and on Sunday it just wasn't. So yeah, I'd take that defeat on Sunday over it happening in the playoffs when it really matters. So I'm not happy. I'm gutted. I won't lie to you. I am gutted, but we got beat by a good side, so there's no grumbles from me on that.
Yeah, what have you made of Leeds so far this season, Steph? Because
yeah, I think they're probably not getting the credit they deserve. I mean, people still look at Leeds as the side that finished 8th for the past 2 seasons. Brad Arthur obviously coming in the middle of last year and bowing out at your place, actually, I think was the final game for them last season, wasn't it, where they did make the playoffs. But this year they're a different entity. I think you're really starting to see what Brad Arthur's bringing to Leeds. Their defence has been phenomenal. They're averaging 13 points a game, which in any normal season would be right up there with, you know, your top sides in the league. Obviously, KR, everyone's talking about KR's attack this season. For me, I look at KR's defence, only conceding on average 8 points a game. He's going to break records this season. So it was a really intriguing one for me, this game, because we saw obviously Leeds the week before in that 48-30 tri-fest. Both sides very uncharacteristic in that game, and I think it was just one of those games where they thought, sod it, we're just gonna chuck it about, and it ended up being a worldie of a game, that one. But I did expect KR to win this, but I think you've got to give Leeds a bit of credit for the pressure. I think that's one of the most pressure I've seen put on KR this season by a side. Don't get me wrong, I think if those passes stick in the first half, I think you go on to win the game. But what that did do is it gave Leeds confidence. And I thought defensively, specifically in that second half, I've not seen a team do that to KR very many times this season. Maybe the time he lost to Wigan at Craven Park. But it was a phenomenal effort by them. But I think this could be what KR needed. I think it was a bit of a kick up the backside for you, more from an execution point of view, because you have been so good in that area this year. It's very easy for a one-off game to just have that slight dip in that area. So I do expect Willie to have had the lads passing a bit more in training this week, and I'm sure we'll see a reaction at Leigh on Saturday afternoon.
yeah, I mean, Basil, we'll mention about the bomb tries, but you know, we saw Reece Martin going in after 10 minutes, scoring a try against his former side. We saw, of course, then Arthur Morg scored a penalty on the back of the Mikey Lewis HIA shot. 8-0. I'm not being funny, mate. This sort of that was the way that a lot of games have gone so far this season. So at that point, I remember I was in the East Stand getting a pint, and I saw somebody and said, "Oh, how do you think it's going to go?" I said, "I think we're going to put points past these now, because we have typically this season sort of weathered the storm in the first half, managed to get points on the board, kept the opposition to 0, and then we kicked on in the second half." And for me, I couldn't see anything other than a Robins victory on the back of what we've done, because we've done it so many times this season. And I was just perplexed, really, how it then panned out in the second half, because we looked like a completely different side to what we've become accustomed to so far this season.
No, absolutely. And like you said, when we was 8-0 up, I personally didn't feel comfortable, because I was just looking at little areas in the game. Even when Mikey was on the field, I noticed that Arthur Morg was kicking on the last tackle. Now, that's not something Arthur Morg does. It always goes to Mikey or Tyrone. So I was scratching my head with that. And again, obviously with the forward passes and whatnot. But in the second half, I felt it was a bit leggy. And that's the first time this year I've seen us look a little bit leggy. Leeds just out-muscled us down the middle. I mean, when Jared come on, I thought it was very timely when Jared did come on. But I think we went through two or three sets before he even got his hands on the ball, which, again, I was surprised they didn't use him more effectively. And for me, after seeing that, Jared's not an impact prop. Jared's a starting prop for me after seeing that. I know he's been out for some time and he's going to be a little bit rusty, the same as Mickey Mack, but Mickey Mack, fair play to him, did big minutes at his age and he put some good shots on. really, really good tackles. Was it Jared O'Connor he put on his backside? It was one of the bigger boys, and I mean, it was a right crunching one-on-one tackle. So, yeah, I was happy with Mickey Mack, but we just lost that little bit of cohesion, that little bit of speed down the middle when Jez had to drop into the halves. But again, there's no complaints from me because we managed it at the MKM in the Challenge Cup when we lost Mikey early and Jez went in the half. So we do know how to play that way. We do know how to get the job done. And end of the day, it was an off day. It was an off day. We got out muscled. I think Leeds was more enthusiastic in that second half, and there was patience. And to be fair, it wasn't like Leeds was walking through us. It took a moment of magic to get Leeds over the line, and it was a try like that which most teams would struggle to defend. And that was the difference between the two sides, because we had a few of them in the first half, but there was just forward. Leeds executed it a bit better than us, and that was the difference between the two teams.
Yeah, I'm going to get Steph's opinion on this very shortly, but Bazza, I mean, the big talking point in that first half, of course, was Mikey Lewis's HIA. Of course, originally, it wasn't even given as a high shot. It was a knock-on to that was awarded to Leeds. It was a successful captain's challenge then that overturned that decision. Unfortunately for Robins, though, Mikey Lewis then went off. I mean, it was great. He sprinted down the tunnel. I was thinking he's going to be straight back up as soon as his 10 minutes is done. But it transpires, doesn't it, that because of the contact and then Mikey Lewis laying prone for so long, that the Hull Kingston Rovers doctor, which I think was then backed up by the independent doctor, instantly failed him on appearance because he was basically laid prone for so long. Now, when you look at the tackle, and if you listen to the All Out Rugby League podcast with Matt Shaw, they questioned whether actually Mikey has done himself in a little bit here by milking the opportunity to get the penalty. Because, of course, do you know what? In defence of Mikey Lewis, the speed of the contact, regardless of where it hits you, was so fast, the way that he flew out the line and hit him. Like naturally, but then I think there was maybe a thought process where he goes, well, if I lay down here, I'll... But because he did that, that then made the referee have to make a decision, obviously, which was then in terms of the captain challenge, but it left the doctors to make a decision. And I don't know, what do you reckon? Do you think he was sort of guilty of just trying to get something a bit extra when he could have got something anyway?
It was a tough one because it happened literally. That was the first game I've been to Craven Park where I've been in the new seating area. Do you know, that temporary instead of being in the East Stand? So it happened right in front of me, and it happened in real time, and it looked like it proper spun his neck. And I winced when it happened. I was like, "What?" You know, I can't repeat what I said on here. It didn't look great, and then you saw the replay back, and it's like, right, okay. And then obviously it was down for a bit, and it didn't look right. It didn't look right when it happened. It was hard for me to make a call on it. Obviously, I had some of the boys from Super League Row saying the contact was around the shoulder, and I'm trying to say it wasn't, mate. It happened right in front of me. But when I've seen the replays back, I'm like, was it an HIA? And it left me questioning it. But if that's what the doctors are saying, I think Willie Peters has said something today about it. They didn't have to get an independent doctor in. It was their own medical staff who made the calls for Mikey's best interest. So if they feel that's right for Mikey, then he's maybe failed it. I don't know. Maybe he's activated something, you know, because they've got them in the gum shields now, what activates impact and stuff. So it could have been anything. Who are we to know? Like, did he milk it? Didn't he? I'd like to think he's more professional that he wouldn't, but could he have? I don't know. I don't know. But if he was milking it and it's cost him a very important game against Leigh, and the worst happens at Leigh, then yeah, I'm going to be a bit disgruntled. But again, we don't know. We don't know. We're not getting it by a player at full pelt, you know. So was it whiplash? I don't know. I don't know, mate.
I'll tell you what, Steph, is it'd be great to get your opinion as a neutral. He's a bit like a pantomime villain, isn't he? Sometimes Mikey Lewis, he's somebody that we love. Well, we love him. Of course, we love him. I think he's an absolutely fantastic player, box office. But I can understand as well why opposition fans and neutral supporters may have a different opinion sometimes to what Hull Kingston Rovers supporters might have about him.
Yeah, I mean, Mike is one of those players where the opposition fans hate him, but everyone would have him in their team.
Yeah.
So he's and that's part of the genius of Mikey Lewis. All the historical great halfbacks have all had a bit of naughtiness in them. That's what makes them so good. It's the madness in genius. But on this incident. For me, I think the telling factor here is that Mikey actually passed his HIA on this one. So when they've actually done the test on him, he actually passed it. But because it was classed as a Category 1 incident, is why the doctors have instantly failed him in terms of not allowing him to go back on and the 11-day rest period he's got to go through. Having looked at the incident, my thoughts were it was a big shot which he took to his neck, shoulder area. So for me, the way that Mikey went down and the way he stayed down was as if he'd been hit in the head, a concussion. So I think there is a bit of, he knows that if he stays down, that play's going to get looked at. That is what's going to happen. So I think there was a bit in that. Initially, I thought, has he hit his head on the ground as he's gone down, which has caused that? I've looked at it again. There isn't any impact with the ground. So I don't think there's anything wrong with what he's done. In terms of we'll never know how much that hurt him, that tackle. It was a big hit, but there is a part of me that does think, has he done the wrong thing in what he did, especially now he did pass the HIA, so we know there's no reason for him to be lying prone and not moving.
Yeah, big contact, and obviously then Bazza, that resulted in Mickey McAlorum having to come back onto the pitch because then they tried and tested 20-minute spell with Mickey Mac where he comes on, defends. Jez Litton comes on that. Then that was totally 10 on its axis, wasn't it? Because then Mickey had to come back on. Jez reverted into the halves, and it changed the whole dynamic of the side, didn't it? Because we didn't have that spark from the hooker role. Jez Litton was playing a position, to be fair, that he's played before, but he was what we gained from him playing in that position, we're then losing another position. And to be fair, Mickey Mac, at his age, I mean, he came up with some big players. I think he made 45 tackles. I mean, he had one carry, but he fronted up in defence, got through a lot of work. It changed the dynamic of the side. What you mentioned it already, Bazza, about the way that Lasone and Jaguar Hargreaves were spelled, because it was almost, there was in tandem, they came on at almost the same time, and I think that was very deliberate, wasn't it? But for me, there was one player who came out on top of that battle, and it wasn't necessarily Jaguar Hargreaves.
No, you're right. For me, Jared's not an impact player. We see the best of Jared starting. And it was the same with Jar Whitbread. When Jar Whitbread used to come off the bench, we'd never see the best version of him. Like Willie Peters always said about Jai, it gets better as the game goes on and when he comes on for his second stint. And I feel that's the same with Jared. I could see what Willie Peters was trying to do and totally understand it because he rotates his pack really well with Dean Adley and Kalepi Tanganoa. But I think on this occasion, it just didn't pay off. Not with the way Sam Lasone runs at the defence line as well. And again, you've got to take into account, and I don't like making excuses for people, but, when you've got Mickey Mac and Jared who's been out for such a long period, to be honest with you, looking at Mickey Mac, you wouldn't have think he's been out at all the way he was throwing himself in front of everyone. Jared, I thought it was a bit lackluster at times, and I think he was very frustrated. Very, very frustrated with just the old tempo of the game, with the way it was going. Hence why he got done for dissent as well. But it's not his finest performance in a KR yet for JWH. So he's got a lot to make up when we go to the LSP on Saturday.
Yeah, I tell you what, mate. I love Hargreaves, and he's I've still got his poster up in my downstairs toilet, so there's no doubt I still love him. And if you look at the stats, to be fair, between him and Lusoni when they had their spell, I mean, Hargreaves, he played a little bit longer because he came on at the back end after he was hooked for giving away the penalty. Tackles wise, Lusoni made 15, Hargreaves made 18, marker tackles 4-2. I mean, this is a telling stat. Lusoni made 6 breaks, Hargreaves made 0. Carries wise, Lusoni made 10. He made 88 metres. Hargreaves made 7 carries, 55 metres. But that only works out an average gain of 9 metres for Lusoni and 8 metres for Hargreaves. For me, the biggest, most telling stat, though, was the penalty count. And it was the 2 penalties that Hargreaves gave away, which ultimately led to the 2 points that Connor slotted over for dissent, but also the Lusoni try. If you wind it back a few tackles, it was a high shot that Hargreaves put on Lusoni that gave them the penalty that then marched them up the pit. And that's what killed us at that moment of the game. And I'm not saying that's why we lost. But when you was fronting up 2 plays like that to have that battle, there was one player who came. And I do think it's not only Hargreaves who struggled to deal with Lusoni. I mean, Steph, he's such a powerful player, isn't he? You know, when he's on form and he's on his pomp, he's so destructive. And we just couldn't deal with him across the line. It wasn't just Hargreaves, it was our forwards just struggled to cope with his pace, his power, and his aggression.
Yeah, he's very much in the mould of like your 𝘂𝗍𝗂, your Pangai Junior, your Paddy Mago at Wigan. Really good player. And obviously, just announced today, I think he's signing with your nearest and dearest, hasn't he, for next season, Lusoni. So yeah, phenomenal player. But I think the real telling one for me, Jono, I think this was the first time none of your forwards made over 100 metres in this game this season. I think that's a telling stat for me in terms of how well Leeds dealt with your pack, which, let's be fair, has been phenomenal this season. But for them to do that, and then this is probably where I'm saying Leeds aren't getting the credit they deserve for their season so far, to limit you at your place to no forwards doing over 100 metres. There's not many teams that will do that to you men this season.
No, definitely. And then, of course, we see probably 𝗲𝗲, one of the tries of the season, if not the try of the season. It was a fantastic score, wasn't it? I mean, we didn't see it coming. But when we're talking about uncharacteristic things that happened to the Robins, for instance, Hiku missing that tackle on 𝗪𝗪𝗔. Normally he nails that. It was a great try. It reminded me a little bit. Leeds seemed to score good tries against Rovers. Was it last season where they scored the try from the scrum? Where it was it Newman who
Brodie Croft to Hanley.
Hanley, where they scored that just out of nowhere. And like this try just came out of nowhere. And you saw the Rovers players under the sticks once the try was scored. They looked dumbfounded. And unfortunately for us, 𝗲𝗲, they never came up with an answer then, did they? After that, Leeds' dominance in the second half, got stronger and stronger. And that try, energised them even further. And there was, I was watching it going, do you know what? We're going to score. We will score. We will score. But as the clock went, on and on, we looked even less likely from scoring. And we went away from a lot of the stuff that we've done so well. So, yeah, I think Steph said it. I think you said as well, 𝗲𝗲, it's probably a defeat that, of course, we don't want. But Willie Peters might be pleased because it just gets him the opportunity to sort of get back into the side. And I think if you remember, 𝗲𝗲, Ryan Hall coined a phrase last season, don't fall in love with yourselves, which is very, very appropriate in terms of, you might be good, but you're always there to be knocked off your perch. And I think, anyway, but I don't think Rovers have fallen in love with themselves. I just think the circumstances has dictated that we've got where what we got out of that game, which was nothing. But it's probably a timely reminder to go, we haven't won the league yet. We haven't won a grand final. There's still a lot of rugby to be played.
Yeah, it just lets them know that we're not invincible. We are human, and we will we will get beat. I think the biggest lesson what will be learned is I will respond from it, because you're the stat man, Jono and Steph. But if I remember rightly, since Willie Peters has been at KR, I mean, I dare say somebody will correct me in the comments, but in the league, without the Challenge Cup, but in the league, I don't think we've ever lost back-to-back, unless somebody wants to correct me on that. So it'll be the perfect game to bounce back on Saturday at the LSV. But again, that defeat will be tough to take, but it'll be a big test of character to how we bounce back from it. And I think we will bounce back, and I think we will have a point to prove on Saturday. I hope so anyway, because like you were saying, when the clock was running down, I didn't see us scoring. I mean, I felt the pendulum swing when Jared gave that penalty away, and Jake Connor brought it to 8-8, and I just felt Leeds was building on momentum, and they was getting more enthusiastic, and I could just feel the game slipping. And obviously it was that wonder try. Again, there was 2 brilliant tries over the weekend. Edwin and Mpapé's at the LSV, and Lockie Miller's at our place. So it took something like that for him to do us. And as the game went on, I just felt we was running out of answers. And there's only one other time I've seen that this year, and that was when we played Wigan at home. So I think we need to learn from that, and learn fast, because there is going to be other games. I mean, we've got another visit to the Brick in August. So if we do go a bit behind, we need to learn how to bounce back, stay in the ground, because that's one thing we pride ourselves on, is grinding teams down and staying in the ground. It was just unfortunate. We ran out of ideas. I felt like Jez was working overtime. Artem Moog was working overtime. But now it was clicking for us. For me, it might sound disrespectful, but it just felt like Leeds wanted it more. I think Leeds in that last 20 was running on adrenaline, and it was a scalp for them, and you could see what it meant to them. We know we've been there when we've done a number on whoever was at top of the table. So it's one of them. You dust yourself off, you go again, and hopefully you learn from it.
I'll tell you what though, Steph, it could have been so much different, couldn't it? Because if Morg's pass to Davis went forward, and if Tanganoa's pass to Broadbent went forward, you know, especially when you look at the Morg pass to Davis on the 35th minute, Tanganoa's about 37th minute. I mean, them tries, even one of them tries goes in, and you're going in potentially 14-0 up. That's a big scoreline to overtake, isn't it? And it was just so, it's beggars belief then tries once scored.
Yeah, I think the first one was the big one for me, where Burgess makes that fantastic break. He catches it at fullback, doesn't he? Goes straight through. He's got Morg on his right hand side. He's got Broadbent on his left. Passes it to Broadbent. It's try time all day. So I think that was the wrong call, and that kind of set the precedent a little bit. But if you score those 3 tries, or even 2 of those tries, I don't think Leeds win that game. I think what it did do, because the longer the game went on, the more that Leeds could smell blood, and you get that lift from their players, and then the impact of Lasoni, the indiscretion from JWH, which he'll be filthy with that himself. That there was a stupid penalty to give away there, and to bring it then to 8-8. Then it took a wonder try from Leeds to win it, but it was worthy of winning that game for me. It was a fabulous try, but you could just see Leeds' confidence growing as the game went on, and then for me, what always happens then is when you've got a quality side like KR, your real star players really start to overplay. And I think there was a bit guilty of that as well, and trying to win it by themselves a little bit. And it just knocked KR off the game that little bit. I'm not saying KR were bad, far from it. It was a great game, but just enough to allow Leeds that opportunity to snatch it with a wonder try.
Yeah, and of course it was telling when Hargreaves was then pulled straight after giving away that penalty for dissent. I mean, he did come back on, but he was pulled instantly. Probably telling as well that Leeds had to come up with a wonder try to win the game, but that was probably not the tail of the tape in its entirety, because Leeds did really put the Robins under the pump in that second half. some supporters at the end of the game, Bazza, didn't exactly cover themselves in glory?
No, mate, I'm disappointed, mate, because how I look at this, it's a family game. It's the best sport ever, right? Some of these fans need to look at the players. They win together, they lose together. They're knocking 10 bells out of each other for 80 minutes, and they'll shake each other's hand after the game. Whether 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗀𝗃's wound someone up or not, it's no excuse. It's not. Whoever's doing this in the East Stand and the chapel ran on is a representation of himself, his family, and our club, and he's let himself down now. If his lad's in that stand with him, his lad thinks that's acceptable to run on the pitch to try and confront 𝗂𝗂𝗃. Give your head a wobble, mate, because we don't need it. We don't need it in the game. We don't need it in the sport. It's not on. Like, back when I started going to Rovers in the 90s, we used to have the away fans. I remember stood with 𝗂𝗱𝗏𝗄𝗏 fans in the East Stand. We've got that sort of sport where we have Magic Weekend and all your fans can descend to the stadium together, all from different clubs. Now, if you can't handle a defeat, don't go. If you get riled up by a player, I don't like 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗀𝗃 because he played for Hull FC, but end of the day, our players still had the respect to shake his hand. There's 11 other clubs in that Super League who can't stand Mikey. You didn't see no Leeds fans trying to get at Mikey when he run in front of the South Stand with his hand at his ear. So don't get upset when an opposition player does it to us. It's the nature of the game. It's a bit of banter between players, between fans. The players have got respect for each other. So I think we should have a bit more respect for players and opposition players, because it's not on. And fighting in the East Stand, there's kids there, John, there's your boy there.
Yeah.
It's not on. It's not welcome in our sport. It's a bad look for 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗏, and it's a bad look for the sport. We're going to Vegas in a few months. We're going to Vegas. We'll be going into the stadium with Leeds fans, with Cowboy fans. We don't want to be seen as thugs or out like that. Knock it on the head. If you can't handle your beer, don't drink. If you can't handle the defeat, don't turn up, because Willie Peters, the players, they're all gracious in defeat. So if you can't hack it, don't turn up. It's not nice losing. We have been through some heartache, but at the minute we're at the top of our game. We've had a defeat. A player's wound you up. It's not on, mate. It's not on. If you can't handle it, don't come. You're not welcome for me.
Yeah, great point. And of course, the club are investigating it, and we hope it doesn't then result in a RFL charge, which potentially then could result in a fine and money being taken out of the club and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, well said, Bazza. I'll tell you what, right, before we talk about some of the big talking points in Super League right now, and of course, the league game on Saturday, I caught up with Steve Till for Robins Revisited. Steve, welcome back to the Robin Pod Weekly. Of course, we take on Leigh on Saturday afternoon. What have you got for us this week?
Well, I'm going back to the last so let's start again. Ask again. Go.
I'll tell you what, mate. We'll do that again. We'll do that again. Steve, welcome back to the Robin Pod Weekly. Of course, we take on Leigh this Saturday. What have you got for us this week?
Going back to 1986 Cup quarter final, Rovers against Leigh. 7,987 in the ground, where to watch a Leigh team who have been running riot in the second division that had 19 wins from 20 games. The previous round, Rovers had seen off a Phil Lowe coached York team 34-10 at Clarence Street, but Leigh were a different kettle of fish. As I said, 19 wins from 20 Division 2 matches. and it meant that we needed to be on our mettle for that. We knew we had a job on our hands when Phil Fox, the winger, put Leigh ahead, ending a sparkling attacking move, which saw the fine try converted by none other than Chris Johnson, the fullback.
Not me. Not me.
Any relation? Yeah, and in fact, Johnson scored Leigh's only other try as Rovers went on to beat them 25-10. Leigh were tough early on, but Rovers stuck through the task. Every try came from well-orchestrated moves, the result of exciting running, and the scorers were George Fairbairn, Paul Arkin, David Lawes and Gary Prome. And that try by Gary Prome was his 100th in Rovers colours. And he scored it by tricking his way over from acting halfback. As I say, 100th try in the Rovers jersey. The backs produced some great running rugby that day, but the win was built on a solid performance by the front row, which saw David Watkinson received the Man of the Match trophy. And if you remember in those days, it was the Silk Cut Challenge Cup. And when they presented him with 200 fags, he said, "I don't smoke." So, yeah, great win by Rovers that day. Took us on to that semi-final where we drew with Leeds and then beat them, and we went on to Wembley, and we all know what happened there. But if there's as much excitement on Saturday as there was that Saturday, the fans are in for a treat.
There you go, Steph. Do you remember that game?
Don't quite remember that one, John. Oh no, I think I was only 4 when that. But I do remember going to a game at Craven Park where the floodlights failed when we were winning, coincidentally, and then it came back on. I think that was in the late 80s, early 90s. That one, but I do remember. One of my earliest memories from a KR game when I was a ball boy actually at Leigh was in the Silk Cut Plate semi-final where you beat us and then went on to play against Hunslet in the final of that. So that was one of my earliest memories. But great to have historians of your club like that reminiscing over those games.
I don't know what you think, Baz. I thought he was older than he looks, Steph.
I'm not getting involved, mate. Oh well, Steph's granddad had the freedom of the borough of Wigan because bit of a Leigh legend is your granddad, isn't he, Steph?
Oh, go on then.
Yeah, my granddad was he was a player. He captained Widnes at Wembley in 1950, first ever televised Challenge Cup final, that one against the great Brian Bevan of Warrington.
Oh, wow.
But then built Hilton Park in 1947 after the war, and then went on to play for Leigh, club secretary, and then ended up timekeeper and club president. And the actual Leigh Sports Village is on Sale Way, which is named after my granddad. So,
wonderful.
So yeah, he's a bit of history, and hence why Leigh's in my blood.
Oh, Steph, brilliant! I'm glad you said that. Great nostalgia, great heritage, great story, and great recognition as well for someone who's very close to you. So yeah, brilliant. We'll talk about the game on Saturday very quickly. Steph, Super League is apparently going to 14 teams next season. What do you make of that?
I think it's a real good thing as long as the clubs can afford it and they can afford to invest in their squads. I think obviously the quota, which I believe we're going to talk about separately, may help them with recruitment because of the obvious concern with this is the player pool to keep the quality of Super League. I prefer to look at the positives of Rugby League and how we can make things better. So the biggest one for me is obviously the dreaded loop fixtures. If we go to 14, that should enable us to get rid of that because I do believe in in a sport where we want it to be fair, then the only way you get fair is by playing each other home and away, and it's equal for everybody. When we've got to play Wigan 3 times, for example, other teams have got to play Salford 3 times this season. And I know Salford were top 4 last year, so it probably looked at as a tough fixture, that, but you couldn't have predicted what was going to happen to them. But yeah, I think for me, I don't like loop fixtures. I prefer just playing home and away. And I think that will enable that to happen. So that's the positive, as long as we can keep the quality of Super League and the right teams come up as well.
The pot of money's not getting any bigger, though, is it?
Well, there's been lots muted about this in terms of whether the 2 teams that aren't the promoted team would potentially not take any money year 1. So again, this is where it comes back to who's coming in, whether it's got to still be off the IMG gradings, because that's still in play. Everyone's committed to that for this season. So it's have your clubs like York, your Bradfords, and Toulouse got the infrastructure and backer in place to be able to spend full cap or as close to it and be able to afford some of these, because if they are going to come into Super League, there's no doubt they're going to have to invest heavily in their squads. So without any central funding or minimal central funding, that's going to be a concern as well. But I'm sure the powers that be have thought of this.
Well, and also, if it is going to go on IMG rankings, it's going to be a 14-team comp without Salford, because they'll automatically drop down to a C grading, which means that they won't be able to comp. So there's so much going on. Now, Bazza, I remember talking on the Robin Pod way back at the start of the season about something called NRL Europe. Now, where has this gone? It seems to have, it was such big news. There was talk in Australia. They were talking about it. It's happening. We saw London then being taken over by Gary Hetherington. We saw, of course, the power struggle in terms of then Nigel Wood coming back involved with all that going on, NRL Europe, and everything seems to have just gone flat again. And now we're talking about a 14-team comp, which wasn't even muted at the start of the season. It just, I don't know, the game just seems to lurch from one, not disaster, but one brainwave to another brainwave to another brainwave. But one thing that fundamentally doesn't change, Bazza, is the pot of money.
No, it don't. But there's a lot of things happening behind closed doors, and I do feel that the NRL still is interested in Super League, because you're seeing little signs of things with the quarter spots, silly things like KR, like partnering up with Queensland. I don't think Australia still is in the background. It's just all politics. I mean, Gary Hetherington making this big charge with London and going to the Australian embassy. Well, that's not been confirmed yet, has it? They've not officially confirmed it yet. But no, I don't think the NRL are still interested. Again, it's all behind closed doors. It's politics, and I think we're just going to get a big wave of announcements of the 14 league team, NRL, a new TV deal, because we don't even know if Nigel Wood's going to be staying on or somebody's going to be taking over, because people was hoping for a better deal. Now Nigel Wood was back in charge, but there's other broadcasters who are interested. But I did hear on one podcast somewhere that, is it Saudi Arabia potentially looking at rugby league? I'm not sure where I heard that, but if they're coming, that's some
Was
major.
it the 𝗂𝗂𝗶𝗴𝗀𝗀 podcast?
No, honestly, I have heard it, unless I'm making it up as I go along. But no, I did hear it somewhere that the Saudi Arabians, I think it was Eddie and Steve-O's podcast. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, that they'd had a look at it, because they're getting all these massive deals with the boxing and whatnot, aren't they? And is it Dan's the broadcast?
Yeah, and they're supposed to be in the running for the comp, and who knows? I mean, Bazza, when you look at the changes, what do you think to the quarter spot changing from 6 to 10? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
It's a good thing, because, well, as daft as it sounds, it'll up the skill level, where look at Doro, for example. He's been around Jared, so you know we're seeing Doro mature, having that experience around him. So I think for me it's a good thing because you're not going to be able to throw big money at big players, so you're going to have to either bring them in on loan. Hence why I think it's a good move with KR partnering up with the Cowboys, so we could potentially bring some of the youth through from the Cowboys in on loan. It's good in a sense if it's done correctly, where teams are still driving the academies. I don't know if there's going to be any rules in place where you can have X amount in a match day squad. I don't know if that's been mentioned. For me, it's good. I don't think it'll kill our youth system. I think it'll improve it, to be honest with you. But again, it's rugby league. We're all rugby fans, and everyone's going to have a split opinion about it.
Yeah, of course, as well, Steph, the dual reg system will come to a close. The cynical view might be that our comp's going to be filled with second-rate Australians who can't get a game in their reserve comp, and the NRL team sees Super League as being a better opportunity for their reserve grade players to get some game time. Would you say that's fair?
I think it's. I don't think it is fair. No, I think I'd rather see someone who's verging on an NRL side, stroke Queensland Cup, than some of the older players like your 𝗀𝗂𝗱𝗏, prime example at Catalan. How much is he on there and done absolutely nothing, and actually taught down our game? What I would point people to, especially I'll talk Leigh because I know Leigh, Cy O'Donnell, Tom Amone, Tessie New, David Armstrong, 4 players there who have lit up Super League, and in fact 2 of those gone back and then come back again. You've actually signed one of them in Tom Amone. So these are the kind of players. If it's more really about your director of rugby and your talent identifiers to pick the right players. For me, the quota can only enhance it. If you can get, we want Super League to be the best competition, and it's fact at the moment there is not enough English talent to get Super League to where we want it to be. So for me, yeah, bring some more Australians in, but the right ones. In terms of the youth and stuff, you've still got a squad of 30 players. So that leaves 20 slots open for English-based players. 2/3 of your team is English-based. So there's no reason. There's nobody going to convince me that Mikey Lewis is not going to make it to England. Do you know what I mean? Just because we've got 10 quota spots. What will happen is the best academy players will make it into Super League. The ones that aren't quite good enough will enhance the championship competition. So this is where we've got to stop thinking of it as negative. Put a positive spin on it and go, let's make Super League the best it can be. Let's get these younger NRL players over. Let's make them into really good players like your Tom Amones, like your Cy O'Donnells. And then they go back to the NRL because they're that good. But for that period they've been here, they've lit up Super League and made it into a better competition.
Steph, you mentioned Tom Amone. Of course, he's plying his trade at Castleford right now. What can we expect to see from him next season?
Well, when he was at Leigh, arguably the best prop in the competition, alongside Herman SASA. So he's a phenomenal player. Leigh turned him from a 15-minute impact player into a prop that could do 70 minutes, no problem. One of the best props I've ever seen play Super League for my team. So he went over to Canterbury. Didn't fit in there. Obviously, Canterbury, a phenomenal NRL side at the moment, and has come back to Castleford. Started a bit slow, and that probably maybe concerned some of the Robin Pod viewers, what you're actually getting. But you've seen now he's starting to get a bit more match fit. He's having a good impact now at Castleford. He's been their best player in a couple of games, I've thought. And under Willie Peters, he's going to develop and get back to those standards he was at Leigh, no problem. But what I will say about Tom Amone actually lived next door to me. I know him as a person, and what you're getting is not just a phenomenal player. You're getting a phenomenal human being. He's a lovely bloke. He'll fit in perfectly with the culture that's being built at KR in terms of your family club and the way you conduct yourselves there, and he'll be an asset to your side without a doubt.
Oh, wonderful! Did you ever take a parcel for him?
A few times, yes. Yeah. No, he's a great bloke. He really is, and he's very good friends with John Asiata as well. So obviously, I think that was a big part in his move up there, that he would have people he knows who live in that area as well. But no, without a doubt, he will fit in with the way KR play. You'll soon have a very big fan favourite on your hands there.
Yeah, and of course, Bazza, he's playing for Cass. He's already living in Hull. He's already, amongst the players. So when he goes into pre-season training, in winter, he's already got 2 feet in the camp. He's already familiar. So yeah, really excited to see what he does. Right, the big one, of course, is the Leigh Leopards on Saturday, fresh from a victory over Wigan, as we've already mentioned, Steph. Where's this going to go? How is this going to play out? Because you guys, no doubt, are going to be absolutely bouncing. I think Rovers have already sold out their allocation. They've opened up the is it the East Stand for that are going to go on sale to Leigh fans first, and if they don't sell out for Leigh, Rovers fans have got the option. Of course, you guys got the record crowd against Wigan. It's perfect for you going on the back of that. Who was the tribute band who was going to be playing? Last time I was at Leigh, it was Elton John. Who was it this time?
Yeah, it's a group called 𝗲𝗂𝗃𝗏𝗃, I think they called. They played there a couple of times. They're really good, like a reggae kind of style band. So yeah. I think with the 30-degree heat and the beers flowing, it'll be the perfect band for the occasion.
But it's going to be a big game, isn't it? Because Rovers are smarting, Leigh are bouncing. What we're going to see, because it's going to be fireworks, I think.
Well, it'll be fireworks in terms of the rugby, but also the pre-match build-up. And I think what Hull KR fans, and I urge anybody who hasn't got a ticket, if you can get one, they built this year as the greatest show in Super League in League. Whether it's that, whether that's pushing it a bit too far, I don't know. But what we can say is the pre-match entertainment, and especially the 15 minutes before the game, will really have that big game playoff atmosphere. And obviously, I've already mentioned the weather. I think it's going to be a scorcher on the pitch. Obviously, when we came to your place, we had quite a few of our key players out in that game. Probably not really hitting our strides as well, and you'd give us a good idea. I think it was 30-0 that day. I don't think it'll be that this week. I expect Leigh to be a lot better. Whether we can beat you, I think it's going to be a tough ask. I think we'll have your team really up for this one. And lots of recent history between our two clubs. We've not beat you since the 2023 Challenge Cup final, obviously. That was the last time. We seem to draw KR every year in the Challenge Cup at some stage. So yeah, it's definitely advantage KR at the moment with where you're sat in the league and the way you're performing. But we just want a really good team performance. And I think if we can get a couple of early tries and put a bit of pressure on you, then maybe your thoughts will drift back to last weekend. But I do expect a narrow victory for KR. I think you'll potentially 12 points to like 24-12. I think it'll be to KR.
Well, I'm sure Leigh hasn't scored a point past us for, I think, 4 games now. Is it 3? Yeah, Bazza. But the Robins haven't had back-to-back defeats for a long time, like you already mentioned. And also, the Robins want to get back on the horse, don't they? So they will not be taking this game lightly. Baz, what have you made of Leigh? Because they've pulled off some tremendous victories this season, but then they've not necessarily then followed that through with a run of games, and the they can be brilliant one week, but then they can be average the next. From an outside looking in, what have you made of Leigh?
I think they've had a decent season. Like, I love the grittiness of Leigh, how they did it last year, with the backs against the wall. And I think this year they've been a little bit inconsistent. Just before the halfway point, they was pulling off some cracking results, but then games that was expected to put a number on. Sorry to remind you this, but going back to Hull FC,
he's not sorry. He's not sorry one bit.
When they played Hull FC at the LSV, and Hull absolutely blitzed them in that first half, and it gets you questioning, like, is Leigh going to be a contender for Old Trafford? But then again, they've hit the straps, and Steph did mention to me about Adrian Lamb having a different mindset for the second half of the season, and that Leigh's going to have a more expansive game. And if that's the case, I certainly do think they are a dead set top four side, and they are growing in confidence each week. Can I see them beating us on Saturday? I hate to say this, Steph, but no. I always have it in my mindset, if a team can score more than 2 tries against us, then they're in a good shout. But it's rare people can score any more than 2 tries. And Leigh have got some key players in that game what can open any team up. In 𝗂𝗂𝗏𝗂𝗏, I mean, Joe Farrell's come mid-season. He's making some good meters down the middle. So there's going to be some interesting battles, but I can't see Leigh scoring more than a couple of tries against us. And that's how I think the game's going to be either incredibly tight or we'll bounce back and blow them away like we did last season at their place. No, it won't. No, it was beginning of this season. It was 12-0 at your place last year, wasn't it? Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a lot in it. The 𝗬𝗂𝗏𝗏, he's one to watch as well because he's been phenomenal this year. And I did say to Steph, like, he had a bit of an howler when we beat him 30-0 at our place, but he'll be better for it. And coming into the second half of the season, 𝗬𝗂𝗏𝗏 is certainly one to watch, and we do need to keep our eyes on him because, again, he can turn a game as well as Lockie Lamb, because I think it's Lockie Lamb and Mikey Lewis are top 2 try assists this year. Unfortunately, we haven't got Mikey, and Lockie, if his head's on and his head's on for the game, it could be a tough afternoon for us. But I don't think we've got enough to get over the line, and yeah, well, I hope so anyway.
Yeah, Steph, I mean, quickly, if you summarise your strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, well, I think Baz had just mentioned then Lockie Lamb, top try assister in Super League. He's definitely one of our strengths. Bailey Hodgson coming off a phenomenal performance against Wigan, went for over 230 metres in that game. So he's definitely going to be a threat. Big missing for us is Robbie Mulhern, but I really expected Wigan to bulldoze us down the middle because of that, only having Joao Fangwe as our main prop. But we held up well against Wigan, so that was a really good sign as well. So we have got lots of threats. 𝗀𝗏𝗏 New is obviously another one that'll be a handful for 𝗂𝗂𝗏𝗏. I think he'll be on 𝗂𝗂𝗏𝗏's side. So yeah, it's going to be some really interesting matchups, and Lewis missing for you guys is obviously a big loss, whether you put Litton there or whether Richardson comes in. That's going to be a really interesting one, and hard for Leigh to plan for that as well. So it's going to be a really intriguing game. But what I would say about Leigh this season, and I think this is a point that a lot of clubs are missing, is yes, they have had some disappointing performances. Wakefield at home, Hull FC at home, I'd say probably the 2 ones. What people are forgetting is this time last season, this exact point, Leigh were 10 points less than what they're on now. And Leigh tend to, over the season, get better and build for the playoffs. And Baz rightly alluded to, at Catalan, Adrian Lamb has a philosophy of building the first half of the season and then really going to a different type of rugby that surprises teams in the second half. And I think we saw that at the Leeds game, the beginning of how expansive we're going to be, chuck it about. And then we then saw the improvements of that against Wigan. So it's going to be really interesting, and no bigger test for us going against what everyone knows is the best side in Super League at the moment this weekend. So I'm really intrigued on how we're going to go. I'm really looking forward to the game, and I'm really looking forward to having a beer with the Hull KR fans as well.
Yeah, and Basil Willie Peters has got a lot to consider, hasn't he? I mean, not least the fact that the current Super League Man of Steel will not be playing against Leigh, and how we then counter that absence. Danny Richardson, of course, has been recalled from his loan at Salford. Could he feature? Don't forget, we've got Arthur Morg who can play in that role. We saw Jens Litton play that role against Leeds. we've seen 𝗬𝗂𝗱𝗴𝗏 line up in the house. There's options across the board, isn't there? What do you think is the most likely option?
I don't know if it's the most likely, but for me, it's a no-brainer to put Danny Richardson there, because last time he come in, I think he got man of the match from Sky. He's controlled. He's got a good kicking game. I won't put 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 there purely because he's been phenomenal out at fullback, and 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 started having problems when he was at Catalans, when he was in the halves, fullback in the halves. He's settled at fullback, and we're seeing as good as Broadbent is, and he has been he's one of our player of the years. I feel like he's more settled in the centres, so I won't want to disjoint it too much. And we played 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 in the halves against Wakefield, and it was a passenger, and nothing creative wise. Great defending in the middle, but we need a lot of creativity if we're going to break through Leeds. So for me, the only option is to put Richardson in the halves and don't disjoint that back line. That's my view. But again, Willie Peters has done things before where I'm scratching my head, and we're getting the wins. So this is why we're fans, and he's the boss, because he's got a game plan. So whether it goes with what I think will happen or should happen is a different matter. But I certainly wouldn't take 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 from fullback, because when it was non-existent at Catalan in the halves, they didn't see the best version of him. He was getting moved about, very unsettled, and it's the same with Broadbent. We are seeing a better player in Broadbent in that centre, although he's outstanding at fullback, and I mean he really is outstanding at fullback. I just feel like we do see a better version of Broadbent in the centre.
Yeah, and it's not only that, Pazza, is it? Because it's about, say, for instance, Jez Litton plays in the halves. Then you've got to have Bill Leyland coming in, because McAlorum can't play the 80. So you've got to have Leyland coming in. Now, can Leyland do the spell that Litton does, for example? We saw against Leeds, McAlorum going off after 20 minutes, Litton coming on. Obviously, that then changed because Lewis went off with his HIA. The more we've changed things and moved people around, I think for me, the worse we become. Can you do a light for light in and out? That's it. But if you move him to play there, and then you got to bring him in, and then you got to change that that's when I think the Robins struggle. I'm hoping, for me, either Richardson comes in, light for light, Richardson for Lewis, although they're not light for light, are they? Because let's be honest, Lewis's game is completely different to Danny Richardson's game. And the game that Danny Richardson plays, combined with Tyrone May, we lose an attacking threat because we don't have that runner. We don't have that runner who can step off and run at pace. And so even that in itself changes the game plan, doesn't it? Because we're having to then maybe rely on Tyrone May, for instance, having to play a bit more of an expansive game in terms of him running up the line.
Well, it does, but Tyrone May, he's also an off-the-cuff halfback. It was when we signed him, and people question I would cope having two halfbacks what like to play off the cuff. So to have Danny Richardson in there, it'd be a little bit more structured, and it can take charge of the game, and just leave Tyrone May to do what Tyrone May wants to do, whether it's off the cuff. Is he going to play the ball? Is he going to kick it through? Just leave him be.
Steph, I'm going to say, Steph, you're a Leigh fan. Who would you like to see play in the halves as a Leigh fan?
I think you should make as many changes as possible and really mix it up. I think when you've got a team that is as good as KR, you can cope with Mikey Lewis not playing. You're good enough to go to pretty much anyone in Super League and beat them without Mikey Lewis. You're not a one-man team, far from it. For me, in my experience of watching rugby league, is the least changes you make to a good side, the better that is. And I would just put Richardson in and keep everybody else where they've been playing phenomenally well this season. If you put Hickey in there, I think that'll be a disaster. I can't see why you would want to do that, because you're going to lose where he's been phenomenal this season. We saw what he was like at fullback. You know, you've got him in the right place in centre there, and I just think, for when you're coming up against a side like Leigh, who have just come off the back of that brilliant win, the last thing you want to do is put people in a place where they're not familiar, or from a defensive point of view where they're not used to defending. Who's their inside shoulder? Have they got confidence in that person? So everything you do has an opposite and equal reaction, and that's what's going to be. That could be the undoing of KR if you try and mix it about too much. So in a long answer, put Richardson in.
Well, of course, as we record this, we don't know the squad news. That'll be out very shortly tomorrow, so we'll see who's in the squad. I mean, Dan Richardson has already been mentioned by Willie Peters that he will be in it. So, yeah, you probably won't get a lot from that. It'll be, an hour and a half before kick-off on Saturday. That's when we'll really know. This leads us to question time, and I've not got the fancy jingle that I normally play. But, of course, we invite your questions, viewers, listeners. Before we do that, though, and I'm sure he's listening, because why wouldn't he be listening? But congratulations to Willie Peters, who's been named Coach of the Month. Fantastic accolade for him, which has seen him lift silverware and, of course, run up some excellent victories during the course of Super League.
Got the Super League Raw Coach of the Month as well.
Oh, there you go. See, there you go. Great synergy. It's there you go. It's almost like you're in charge of them. Right, question time. Let's go to Julie Rodman. She says, Bazza, how do you feel about us having the hardest running to the end of the season? Do you feel like we have an adequate squad to step in if needed, all with the same enthusiasm to get the job done? Of course, it's been analysed about the running. Wigan have got something like 1 million home games before the end of the season. I think Leeds have got 3 in 10 games or whatever, and I think we've got some. So, and also we play teams that are all in the current top 6. But do you know what? For me now, the running's the run. Like it don't matter. You just play the teams, you know. And I think going back to what Steph said though about the loop fixtures and all stuff like that, the fixture list is so skewed in terms of who you play, when you play them, and how many times you play them. You've literally just got to take it as the next team that comes up, haven't you? But you know, Wigan do have an advantage having so many home games, I'm guessing.
They do and they don't. Wigan have been a little bit stuttering over the last 4 weeks, but going back to the question, I'd sooner have a little bit more of a difficult run-in just so we can see where we're at. As far as I'm concerned, if we want to be the best and be taken seriously, we need to beat the best. I mean, you look at St Helens playing Salford twice in 2 weeks, they're getting mimicked for it. You know, they're getting the piss took out of them, basically. So, and for me, they'll be battle-hardened. You know, they've been in tight games, they've been in tough games, you know, and if they're coming on the right side of the results, it stands them in good stead in the road to Old Trafford. Whereas if the last 4 games you're coming up against a Huddersfield, a Salford or a Castleford, and we're not getting out of first gear, then all of a sudden we're having to play a Leigh, a Wigan, a Leeds, and you know, because we've had such comfortable games the last 3 or 4 games, it might shock us a bit, and maybe that's what happened on Sunday, because we've had like Castleford, Catalan, who have been non-existent. Wakefield was a test, but we got over the line, and then we got some stiff competition, and look what happened to us. So I think for me in the running, I'd rather have some tests there than not have tests there.
Yeah, and also Steph about the question. Well, part of the question was about the squad depth. When you look across Super League, where would you see Rover squad depth in terms of compared to other sides, for example?
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest change with KR now. They've gone from being a 13 really good players to now a squad of maybe 25 players that could all step in and play first team if needed without very much impact. So it's a really good squad that they're building there, and a mixture of experience and youth as well, which is always a really good combination. So but it's interesting how people look at things in terms of the run-ins and stuff. People will say, oh, we've got so many top 4 teams or whatever. I'm a very positive person, the way I look at stuff. The way I would look at the situation for KR at the moment is every single team that you've got to play between now and the end of the season is below you.
Yeah, definitely. Bazza, Gary Lee, of course, was featured on the Robin Pod very regularly this season. He says, given the potential for further success this year and in the coming years, does the temporary south stand need to be permanent? Of course, the Robins announced that the south stand temporary seating will be returning. I think we've had, 25 consecutive sellouts now, which is absolutely phenomenal. And I think with the south stand seating that's going to be put in place for the running, we've got the potential to get our highest ever attendance at Craven Park. The temporary seating, of course, it's needed, and the demand shows that it's needed. But for big infrastructure, you need big money, and at the moment, we're not there, are we?
No.
But if people keep buying tickets, it's going to pose a question, isn't it?
You look at last year, to put it up for a couple of games in the run into the playoffs and sold out. So they're trialing it again, but obviously over a slightly longer period. And they've put that offer on. Like if you're an adult, it's 99 quid. You're getting 4 games. So that stand holds 1,000 people. So 100 quid, that's sold out. That's 100 grand the club's making at the back end of the year, what wasn't there at the start of the year. And if it does sell out, and because of the demand for tickets, it's a no-brainer, because it's not going to cost an arm and a leg to have that stand up. No, it's not pretty on the eye, it really isn't, and I dare say we'll get the mick took out of us for it. But if it's generating more revenue on a consistent basis, it gives the board something to think about going forward, to put in something more structured in place, because it was only our second year in Super League. We had that golf stand up where the north stand was. That was trialled, that was selling well, and we ended up with the north stand being there. So if they keep building into this, then it's the right thing to do. Like you say, we had a couple of games last year, it sold really well. They've put it back up to trial it for the back end of the year, put a decent offer on, and if it sells out, then it's now down to the board to act upon it, to get something more permanent put in there if there is going to be that demand. So I think if it goes well with the back end of the year with that south stand now, they should look at putting it in for the entire year next year, because there's already a big waiting list for season tickets. And again, if it's sold out for next year, then that's when the club will look at 2027 to put a permanent fixture in. All I'd like to say is it'd be nice if they could put a cover on it. Again, it's not going to look pretty, but
Fucking hell, Bazza, what else do you want? Jesus Christ.
No, but it's a bit bitter, that wind coming from the docks, in it. But something like that temporary stand on the east stand, a bit of shelter. So no, it's great in the summer, but I think if it sells out for the back end of this year, I can see it being a bit more of a permanent fixture for 26. And then again, if it's sold out for there, I think that's where the board members are going to have to look at maybe something a little bit more permanent.
I'll tell you what, Bazza, if you judging by your 5-star accommodation that you've got now, if you'd have 10% of your wages into building that south stand, we'd have it up in 6 months.
Damn me, I'm not on that much money.
No, and as a final question, Michael Matthews, he says, I suppose it's a bit of a knee-jerk one, Steph, because he says, are some players getting fatigued and in need of a rest? Is it time to use Eric Dorrow, Noah Booth, and maybe Leon Ruin a bit more? I don't know, maybe from someone who's looking from the outside in, it does feel like Willie Peters has got his 13 named, and if you are fit, you play no matter what. There is no There's no getting away from that. And I think that's why the people like 𝗬𝗲𝗏, Mickey McAlorum, for example, come straight back into the side as soon as they are match fit. And even, well, to be fair, Challenge Cup final, even if they're not match fit, they play. Like, so...
It's I think it's probably a bit knee-jerk from that fan in terms of an immediate reaction to a loss against Leeds. You're going to need your strongest 17, and it's very, very unlikely, I'd say, looking at the squad now, you're going to get a breakout player this season that's going to displace any of those 17. You may get someone who has to come in through injury. Obviously, Doro's gone on loan to Bradford now, hasn't he, to get him more game time, which is a brilliant move for him. Obviously, he's got a massive future in the game from an outsider's perspective. Really like what he's doing, but he's still got a couple of errors in him. Bradford will do him a world of good, that getting some more experience in a really competitive competition in the Championship as well. But no, I think I don't see any fatigue. I didn't see fatigue in the game against Leeds. I think it was more execution of some players who should have done better and put you on the back foot. But they'll learn from that. And I'm expecting a big response from them this week, and then that'll probably nullify that question.
Yeah. That's it, guys. Thank you. I'll tell you what, mate, Steph, been absolutely great to have you on the Robin Pod. Bazza, as always, your opinions, your views, your insight has been really worthwhile. Like Steph said, he's looking forward to having a pint with the Robins on Saturday afternoon. It's going to be another terrific occasion. The Robins are travelling in big numbers, and I'm sure, Steph, the Leigh fans will be there in big numbers as well.
Yeah, well, it is looking like a sellout. I think there was 100 or so tickets left in the East Stand yesterday. So yeah, if KR have sold out their allocation, it should be a sellout. And let's just hope it's a fantastic occasion, regardless of result. Come on your numbers, support your team, and let's make rugby league showcased on a really good stage.
Exactly. And if you are going, make sure you are loud and proud. And don't forget to live, love, laugh, and be happy.
When the red robin comes bobbing, when the red robin comes bobbing, when the red robin comes bobbing along.
The Robin Pod is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Make them your first and only choice for a vast array of vehicle services. They are reputable East Hull-based car specialists and dedicated to providing quality services at reasonable prices. And don't forget, they are trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Find them at 146 Leeds Road and ask them about the exclusive discount they offer Hull KR Rovers Forever members.